Welcome back to Webinar Ninja, a podcast about how to teach, present, sell, and connect with your audience effectively using webinars. Any business, any known brand has a community behind it, a community of raving fans. And this is not by accident. This is always by design. Businesses that succeed know this. Brands know this. Celebrities know this. They know they need to create a movement to get others on board. Traditionally, this is done through traditional media, radio, television, and it's done through commercials, but it's more effective through the content itself. And a good example of this are recording artists. I mean, every teenage girl wanted to be Cher in the 70s, and then the same women fell in love with Michael Bolton in the 90s, because these artists created movements around their work. But what does it take to build a movement? What's important, and where do you come into play as the leader of your community, as a leader of your own movement? I decided to give Michael O'Neill a call, a host of a popular brand and podcast called the Solopreneur Hour. He's cultivated a great community with his podcast, as well as webinars with his community and coaching group, Solo Lab. He's also an exceptional communicator. Every community, every movement needs a great leader. And you have to be a great communicator to engage with your community. I asked Michael, what's important when communicating with his audience as the leader of his community?
I find myself to be very empathetic to my audience. So in terms of what they're expecting, I think I can sort of steer them into that direction. It's funny because it's the same thing that makes a good litigator for a lawyer. It's the same thing that makes a good comedian. It's the same thing that makes any presenter, which is having one of my favorite quotes of all time was by Bill Cosby to Billy Crystal. And when Billy Crystal was just coming up, they were talking about, like, he was trying to get his swerve on as a comedian. And Bill Cosby said, the best advice I can ever give you is never let him see you work. So the idea behind that was have an agenda, have an idea of where you're steering the audience, but never let them know that they're going there or that you're doing it on purpose. Mm-hmm. So I love that idea. And it's the same thing. You hear it all the time, like if you watch a legal show, were you free? Were you free on the afternoon of July 15th? And like, yeah. And do you think red is a good color? And they're like, yeah. Well, no. What are you doing driving a red car on July 15th? You know what I mean? You're like, oh God, I just walked right into that. And so
I asked Michael, how do you serve and inspire your community through your content? After all, you can't have a movement on your hands if you have nothing to get it moving. I asked him specifically, what's his advice when preparing a webinar or preparing a piece of content for your community?
I think that the overall concept is A, understanding your audience really well, B, I think you have to have your own voice. I think going into it with just a slideshow isn't going to get the point across. And third is knowing exactly what you're talking about. And the only example I can give you many, but one example I'll give you is in college, I was completely woefully underprepared or unprepared for I was in a speech class, and we had to give a how-to speech that day. And I walked in, I had no idea that I had to give this speech at all. So I walked in, I'm like, oh man, what do I do? And I ran out to my bike and I grabbed the wheel off of it. And I gave a how-to on how to change a flat tire because I was working at a bike shop at the time. It was easy for me to do. So I knew the subject matter really well. And as it turned out, it was the best presentation of the day.
Right.
Because I knew it inside and out. So I think having a real passion about what you're doing and not just, again, sort of reading these slides is the way to get a point across with a passion that says that I'm super I'm into what I'm talking about, and I'm able to deliver it and sort of answer any questions.
Michael mentions the importance of speaking in your own voice. I wanted to explore this further with him. Why does he think people struggle to speak in their own voice, to be themselves when addressing their audience?
Yeah, I think there's a confidence issue there. There's people that do this that are very good podcasters that are very different on their mic than they are in real life. And just think about this. I'm obviously a podcaster and I do some public speaking as well, but the way I look at this is that this medium has been around for as long as people have been around. Someone has been standing on a stage trying to talk to a group of people to convince them, whether it was like, Caesar in ancient Greece or, someone on a podcast. So I think that communication in and of itself has been around forever. Mm-hmm. And think about throughout history, the people you remember. The people you remember were very distinct in their personality. You don't remember the people that were sort of blending in and trying to be like someone else. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like Howard Stern, Barbara Walters, any of these sort of major icons that we've had communicating, you can name their traits because they're very unique in what they do and their delivery mechanism. So I think there's a fear around it. I think stand-up comedians find their voice many years into becoming stand-ups, and that's something I study all the time. I'm a huge stand-up scholar, if you will.
Right.
I study a lot of stand-ups, and not just because of their jokes. I literally study how they deliver and how they bring a crowd through a certain energy. I don't think there's anybody better than a stand-up.
I want to bring all this good stuff from Michael back to the question, can webinars create a movement? But before that, let me share with you a bit about today's sponsor, Xero. Xero. Xero is a beautiful accounting software built to help small businesses be more productive and successful. Xero is easy to use. Send invoices, online quotes to your customers, pay your employees, manage your cash flow, manage your expenses, and even your inventory with Xero. Xero is in the cloud, so you can access and manage all your business accounting on the go. And Xero does what desktop software does and more. Plus, you can use it anywhere, anytime from a mobile device. There's nothing worse than not being able to access your accounting software when you're on the go. You can send invoices easily and have your clients pay you online instantly. You can even integrate various point-of-sale solutions like PayPal to save you even more time. So sign up for a free 30-day trial with Xero.com/podcasts. That's Xero.com/podcasts. Xero, a beautiful accounting software built to help small businesses. One reason why Michael O'Neill has built a thriving community and a following is he takes the time to craft his communication with his audience. I'm a believer that if you want to create a movement and have people behind you in this movement, you have to communicate the values of your movement better than anyone else. Every personality in the history of the world that created a movement was an exceptional communicator, from Gandhi to Malcolm X to Martin Luther King. But you might be asking, what about those who created movements in the modern world of media and business? Oprah, Richard Branson, Tony Robbins, they're not exactly poor communicators. In fact, they built their brands and community of customers, aka movement, through the communication of their values, through their consistent communication of their values. So what does this have to do with webinars? Webinars give you the platform to communicate to the masses. There are no more gatekeepers. You are streaming live to the world, so start building your movement, your community with your message. There is no more excuses now that webinars exist. You want to grow a community of 1,000 members to your membership site? This can easily be done with regular webinars. John Lee Dumas from our first episode got over 2,000 members to his community, Podcasters Paradise, in less than a year by using, you guessed it, webinars. Ever since we started working on WebinarNinja about 18 months ago, I've been looking around in the online business world and realized that many have yet to discover the power of webinars. Many have neglected how powerful they could be when creating a movement and creating a community for your business. I suggest you get on it and start using webinars before your opportunity to be a pioneer in your industry passes. If you want to learn more about how to communicate better with your audience and start creating a movement, you can head over to WebinarNinja.co and sign up for our free 7-day course, Plan and Launch Your First Webinar. Just scroll down on the page and you'll see it greet you on the right side of the page. Enter your email and each of the 7 video lessons will be sent straight to your inbox. On the next episode of Webinar Ninja, I get real, very real. It will be 2 days away from the release of the Webinar Ninja platform, and I'll be sharing where we're at, what's ready, and what's not, and how we're dealing with the pressure of ensuring we delight our customers come launch day. Look out for that episode next week on Webinar Ninja. Webinar Ninja is produced and edited by Nicole Baldino. Music is by Dan Mills and Mark Bose. If you enjoy this podcast and find it valuable, tell us what you've learned, what you're excited about when it comes to webinars. We'd love to hear about it in an iTunes rating and review. If you're on your iPhone right now, just click the cover R and you'll see today's show notes. In there, you'll see an easy link that says, give us a rating and review. Click that link and the rest is a piece of cake. Thank you so much in advance. To learn more about what we're doing at Webinar Ninja, visit WebinarNinja.co.
But it's good. Just had lunch at Swami's.
Oh, Swami's. We miss Swami's. The coffee is fantastic.
They all ask about you, of course.
Oh, yes. Is it Alejandro? I forgot who the manager is.
Jorge
with the mustache. I love the guy.
Yeah. And then his son's there as well.
Yeah, he's been making him go to work because he doesn't know the honor of the dollar.
Yeah, that's right. I love it. Right?
Yeah, I know, man. Need more of that.